to raise capital. So we're basically a platform to allow people to raise capital, to allow their companies to gain a little bit more credibility because they're now in a regulated platform, but also liquidity in trading their shares. So effectively that's what we do. But for us, we took a view that we would do a lot of our processes in a manner that's tech-enabled so that it reduces the costs of doing business but makes things easy. While, I mean, most exchanges in South Africa settle in 3 days, they call it T+3, we settle immediately T0. So literally in 10 seconds, trades match and the trade is done. Again, for us, that has enabled us to do a few other things that are not possible to do in some of those platforms. So it's been for us a good match between tech and finance, and I think a lot of you who may be doing a little bit in the tech will be familiar with the concept of fintech. But maybe Marang, I mean, to start on a completely different thing, on Sam's video, asking people about the fourth industrial revolution. I think if you went to most people who are between 40 and 50 and asked them about the third industrial revolution, you'd get a similar answer. So I think the young people mustn't feel that they are the only ones who are unaware about what's happening. I think generally people don't always know about concepts. For me, the most important thing about tech is finding the intersection between technology and solutions. Even social media, if you use it for retail distribution or distribution of any products, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So I think a lot of these platforms, and there's a friend of mine who's Nigerian, he went to pitch in Netherlands on a very simple energy tech solution, if you can even call it that, but in agriculture. So he went to a company that does solar light. This light, I think the battery lasts for 6 hours, and you can have 6 lights, or not actually 12 hours, and you can have 6 lights. So what the guy's business model was that he would take, which is a household solution, apply it on chicken farming. He realized in Nigeria there are hundreds of thousands of chicken farmers, but one of the things they don't have is access to electricity, and for a chicken farm you need light. So he took that solution, applied it in a different environment. So I think that's where the genius of entrepreneurship is. Not all of us are going to be techies behind the desk. We need a lot of them because somebody must make those things happen. But I think the real opportunity is, while we're not all engineers, while we could not all do cars, we're able to say, I'll use a car for Uber, I'll use a car to drop goods, I'll use a car to be a taxi. There's many things you can use with that product without you having the capability to do it. But I think we'll go back to the capital raising and all of that.
Okay. Kutlwano, what are you guys doing at Tech Savvy Kids?
Hi guys, I want to say morning. Okay, so what we do, we are an organization and we provide programs in coding, programming, robotics, and financial literacy. So, but we also started a new program in promoting STEM education. So we do these programs for kids from grade 4 to grade 11. But those are like different programs that the kids interact in. So we have kids that are at the age of 11 who are building their own robots. They are into robotics, they're into coding, they're into programming, and also learning on the entrepreneurship side of things from a very young age. Yeah.
Okay. Despite being jumped in, wait, do you guys know what government e-services is? Hands up if you know, if you've ever heard of government e-services.
Okay. Okay,
Continue, we find out.
All right. Good day, guys. Okay, I'm Thulani Mafalala, and I'm from a department called Gauteng e-government, right? And I'm from a unit in there called e-services, right? So the department has been there for a while, but it has evolved over time. It used to have 2 other names before, but it was in 2015 that it was redirected to focus on a totally different focus. It is the only department that specifically focuses on offering technology services. Okay, so our mandate as a department is to digitalize how Gauteng provincial government works, right? And that is based on 5 pillars, okay? The first pillar is building the infrastructure. So the flagship program there under the infrastructure pillar is the Gauteng broadband network, because you will see that in order for us to say we're taking government services digital, we first need to lay the road, which is the broadband. So that's what we're doing. Then the second thing is, if we say we're going digital, all that data needs to sit somewhere. So then we also needed to build a facility called the fully managed data center. And this is coupled together with a partnership that we have with Microsoft for their Azure cloud platform. So on-prem data center, the fully managed data center, as well as the cloud platform, right? And then the next thing is to say, if you're going all digital, you need a way to govern this. So then we are coordinating the policy work for the province in terms of their strategies of going digital, the policies that will be required to manage all of this. Right? So that is the third pillar. And then the fourth pillar is where I play in, which is now the e-services. So when we are all done with our job, there should be a reduction in the number of people who need to walk to a department office, request a form, someone fills in a form. So you would already know by now that last week or so, people started applying for schools for their children. That is the one e-service that everyone knows about. Another one that everyone should know about is called e-recruitment. Currently, haven't you heard of e-recruitment? No, actually, you shouldn't be using that. When I applied for the job I'm holding at eGov, I went onto the Gauteng website, went to the e-recruitment web service, created a profile, uploaded a copy of my CV, uploaded scanned copies of my qualifications, and I got the interview. So yeah, but it speaks to the fact that we still need to do a lot of advocacy and marketing for the e-services we have. Now we are doing 4 categories of e-services. The two I just spoke about now are more of your government to citizen services, right? Then there are government to business services where businesses, like for instance at the Gauteng Liquor Board. Now they've just launched an online solution too, where if you want to open a tavern, you can apply for your liquor license online. So that is a government.
You can't buy the booze online. You can only apply for a liquor license. If you want the liquor license, you can now apply for it online on the GLB solution. So that is government to business. And then there is also government to government where one department needs to interact with one another. You don't need to send a physical file. So there will be those e-services too. But there is also government to employee, where now other government departments in other provinces still need to fill in a form to apply for leave. They still get a physical pay slip. All of those for us are digital now, and I don't need to be inside the domain to access that. Even if I'm outside the domain, I can access it. You understand? So those are the 4 categories that fall within my profile as e-services. The last part, the last pillar of what we are doing now is stimulating the ICT ecosystem within the province. The reason why we need that is there is a handful of developers inside the department, and there are hundreds of government services. We will not be able to digitalize all of government on our own. So we then need to stimulate the ecosystem. And one of the targets we have, for instance, is to have a certain number of township ICT concepts that we support. right? This is not a rands and cents kind of support. It's the kind of support where someone has an idea, it's a semi-mature concept, but they don't know how to take it forward, right? And people probably don't know that there is something called an SMME clearinghouse under a program called SEPA 1 million. This is something in the office of the Premier. Have any of you heard of SEPA 1 million? Okay. All right.
There's a lot to be sharing today.
Yes. So SAPA 1 million is a program that is specifically meant to reach that number of entrepreneurs. So within SAPA 1 million, there is a specific program called the SMME clearinghouse. Their job, in summary, is to offer business development services to SMMEs. So from our side then, our job is to facilitate an interaction between all the stakeholders who are trying to develop township entrepreneurs who are operating in the ICT space. For instance, 2 weeks ago we met with Dimension Data and we found out that they are currently incubating about 26 township entrepreneurs who are in tech, but they can only take them up to a certain stage, right? Then they will be done with their contribution. Someone needs to take them further. That's where we come in. We then facilitate that these people be taken to the clearinghouse for further development and assistance into how to grow into proper businesses, you understand? So that is pretty much the summary of what we do. I could talk the whole day, but yeah, let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Kutlwano, with your programs that you're rolling out in schools, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing, considering that hasn't been the norm in terms of having these programs in the schools?
Okay, so because we work with we try to reach out to schools in the township. One of the challenges we face is, as much as we want to do it as pro bono projects, the problem that we'll face is the unwillingness of the teachers. I mean, as much as we work a lot with the kids, we also want to get the teachers involved as well, and also get to educate them as well. So one of the problems we face is that the teachers are not willing to participate or even just give out that information to students. We've had cases where we start the program with the school and the teachers are reluctant because they don't really see if it's going to benefit the kids or not. So it's a thing of, no, but the kids are busy with school, but the kids can't come during holidays, or the kids can't come on weekends. So
is that any indication of their understanding of where this fits in? Or do they see it just as a disruption to what this curriculum is?
I think it's also a problem of their understanding and also just being intimidated by the whole thing.
Because I found, Saki, you might have experienced this considering how old school and traditional the JSC model is and the means of raising capital in there. But when you speak to people that have used a certain methodology for decades, and then you're now introducing them to something new, there's always that learning curve, and we touched on it earlier, but there's also that resistance because it's unfamiliar. Have you had similar challenges?
Well, I think the point about the teachers, on a different note, there's a program I've been working on and we've not started. Well, the platform exists and we're now looking for money on it, and what we're trying to do with that platform is really reduce the gap on access between the skilled teachers and students who need it. So we'll use an online consultant system to teach the teachers, but also teach the schools. But what we decided we would do is that we would, one, find champions to get the idea, to gain traction, but also start to teach the teachers. Because imagine a teacher talking about coding to students and these kids say, what is coding? And they can't answer. So it's a very uncomfortable environment to be in. So in a lot of these things, to achieve what you want, a little bit of change management is actually important, because however good the idea is, you could just follow it purely based on that. But back to your question, we've seen where just history and structure makes it difficult for new things to happen. In education, you pick any subject, Clearly things are going to change. You have machine learning, there's artificial intelligence, so machines can do a lot more, but the curriculum hasn't changed. So people are still taught the things we were taught. And we're teaching our kids what we know because, we don't know what we don't know. But the reality is that we're not preparing for the future, and you then find these blocks on, if you taught computer science, if they don't have a license to a Google or an iOS system, they can teach you that system, but when you do apps, you may want to sell those apps on those operating systems. So how compatible are you on those operating systems or any other? So for us, JSE had been around for more than 130 years. So it was synonymous with listing. When pension funds say we invest only in listed equities, they would write it as JSE equities. So you had to change even such basic things. But you then change that, you get to, the benchmark for the past, however so many years has been a JSE index. Now, if you must invest and you're investing in equities which don't have an index that's been that long, what do you use as a basis if you're an investment consultant to give people mandates to do that? So that's where you're finding that really the magic in this world often is figuring out how to get around those problems. And that's where then enabling tech gets into, like now there's a big buzz about alternative investments and private equity, venture capital, but slowly money is going there. It's not yet where we would like it to be, but those are the things you're going to find that when you're trying to scale up your ideas, raising money, in South Africa we don't have a good ecosystem to do it. And even just perceptions, Marang, we read a lot, Mark Zuckerberg started his company in a garage, or Bill Gates, but when it comes to us, most people, when they want to start a business, there's the perception that you must have premises somewhere. If you don't have premises, you're not serious. And I think we need to also teach entrepreneurs to get themselves out of those mentalities, because then it's costly to find business premises. At times you don't need them, as you were saying. You can code anywhere. You can build a business profile anywhere. There's co-working spaces now. If you really have to have meetings, you can have a meeting at Workshop 17 and book a boardroom, or Sky. There's a whole lot of platforms that are friendly to startups, but at times we fall on the trap of wanting to play by the existing rules. And the reality is that you're not going to succeed if you play by those rules. They are there for those people who've been playing by them, they are designed for them, and you never catch up. And the only way is to find, workarounds. That's the only thing I think that's going to take us forward, is finding creative solutions. You see something, and with what you see, you think, how can I do it differently?
What was the sweet spot though from DV for you to then go and leverage off of the tech that allows you to then deviate from what the JSE has been doing traditionally?
So again, a little bit of history onto it. You had in South Africa legislation on black economic empowerment, as we know, that led to a lot of transactions done on listed companies. So some of you may be young to know them, but MTN had what they called Zar X, and then MultiChoice had a few, it had its own scheme. So a lot of big companies had their own black economic empowerment schemes, but these schemes didn't fit in the rules of listing, that you must have an operating company, you must have a board committees, audited, this and that. This was just a holding structure that had a share under it. There was no trading activity. So those then got traded on what was called over the counter. So it was not on a regulated exchange. But as these transactions were happening, what is now FSCA, Financial Sector Conduct Authority, it was FSB, Financial Services Board, they said this industry is getting too big and unregulated. So you have trading that's in essence not regulated. Now the big exchange was like, we're not really interested in this, it doesn't fit with our model. Then people who were in that applied for licenses. So some of the founders who I've now partnered with on the business applied for a license with that experience of over the counter. But what then they knew at the time, and I bought into the idea when I was raising money to get into the business, was we've got to do things differently. Other than having, those who know Zakele, you couldn't sell in 5 years. So there's no liquidity. People are sitting there, you can't pay school fees, but you're sitting on 100,000 in shares.
We'll reach the other side.
You gotta wait for it. So we said, then we must be able to create a platform where you solve a problem one-on. Because why they were having those lock-in periods was that they were worried when you sell, they lose the BEE component of it. So we said we solve for two problems, liquidity and perpetual BEE. So you let people who are black or female or whatever criteria you want to use to be the only ones that trade in that class of shares. So you solve for two problems, that you can only sell to somebody who meets the criteria, only a black person, only a female, only a person who belongs to this religious group, whatever it is that you want to do. But two, then those who want to sell don't have to wait for any period. You can buy today and sell tomorrow. But to be able to do that, you needed to have systems that allow and enable those things to be done. So it was a combination of legislation which was pushing change, and we then thought to make the change work better, we've got to make the systems respond to solutions. Because IT is not for its own sake, it's what solutions are you trying to offer.
Yeah. Kutlwano, so each time I've seen what Tech Savvy Kids has done in terms of their programs and stuff, and each time I look at those kind of programs, I always see my dad and his grandchildren, my nieces and nephews, but his grandchildren, right? My nieces and nephews are the tech child. If there was ever a children born with technology in their hands, that was them, right? And they're about 9, 10, ranging up until 15 that he's interacting with. But they've consumed so much technology, and when you try to talk to them about even their homework or things like that, this kid is going onto the iPad and is pressing things and whatever, and I look at my dad and I laugh at him, because when I was in school, all he could refer me to was an encyclopedia. If he didn't know the answer, he referred me to an encyclopedia, because the internet wasn't there, and also search engines, when they even came in, they really were just databases and lookup tables more than they were a functional thing. You couldn't ask it in a language that you couldn't communicate. Google, you can say, what is the color of, and it will respond therefore. But before, you couldn't do that. You had to be very specific in your keywords. What have you guys done, and if any, that you're doing to get the two sides coming across? Because now you're going to have this super techie kid who's sitting in the house trying to do homework with somebody who just doesn't understand this technology, and your drive has been get the kids educated, but their home base is not the same.
So are you not cold?
No.
I'm average, and I think it's cold.
I have a coat over there on the chair and stuff like that. So it is my choice that I think but everybody has been asking me if I'm not cold. I am not cold. I really am not cold. And I think, so I do a lot of public speaking as well. I think the temperature elevates when you know you're going to come to the stage. All of a sudden,
No, I think you've been in many programs with white men. I
think maybe that's it. And I have become very acclimatized. I'm very okay with the temperature of the aircon being at 21 when everybody's just like, oh, it's absolutely fine. yeah, but no, I'm fine. But thank you for asking. So how do you bridge the gap between these tech savvy kids and their grandpas who was just saying, now the encyclopedia again?
Well, we are not there yet, because at the moment we're still focusing on the kids and the teachers, so our focus is still only on the schools.
Yeah.
So as much as we'd like to go on to like how the kids are able to interact and do the schoolwork with the involvement of the parents, we're not yet there.
Yeah.
But I think in the future we'd like to do that. It's just a way of coming up, okay, how are we going to integrate all of this together? How do you find a way that works really well for the kids to say, okay, as much as you are a tech kid, also be a kid who's able to interact with other people, be a kid who's able to work with other kids as well.
And just be a kid.
And just be a kid as well, so we are, just trying to get into that space. But I know, still quite, but when I was in school, when I was in matric, that's when the whole e-learning thing came into our school. And when I was in matric, that was
just for context, and not to reveal your age, but just for context, when is this happening? Because and for context, because in some schools e-learning has been a thing for a lot longer.
Yeah.
But it really just depends on what area code the school is, and you know, and what kind of curriculum they're using, what kind of teachers you have, and stuff. And I need that just for context.
Yeah, well, it was in 2013. So in 2013 I was in matric, and that's when we were introduced to e-learning, and so that's when the whole thing of having to use tablets in schools. That's when we started using it. But I'm trying to think of, did it really work? Do we really call that e-learning? Because it's basically just taking a textbook and turning it into a PDF and having it in tablet and saying, okay, that's e-learning. Which is not really e-learning. It's just making it easier for the kids to say, okay, I don't have to carry 6 textbooks with me.
But do you think we even have a culture of self-learning? Because that's what e-learning requires.
Yes.
E-learning requires you to be able to just do your own self-paced, like you must be a UNISA student, for lack of a better analogy, right? You must be somebody that does not need a classroom environment to be taught something in order for you to absorb that knowledge. Are we a nation that is even ready for that? Because you sit at a prime opportunity where you're creating those future learners in that sense. But the large majority of our population, could they even adapt to e-learning that is beyond just a PDF?
I think we can. I know the government is trying somewhere there. I mean, Department of Basic Education, they are, trying, but there are a lot of barriers to that. I mean, if you have to think of a kid that's in MTATA or somewhere, it's you need to look at what are the priorities as well. As much as they want to do this into like, okay, let's disregard the textbooks, your hard copy book, and let's have the new tablet.
Earlier, you and I were having a very informal chat outside, and we were saying that there's a lot of information that you are dishing out, and then you get to the other side of the equation, and you realize that the information hasn't filtered through to the people. So you might have to repeat yourself. But where's the block? Because if you engage, when government is in the room, there's a lot of information, and then you look at the audience, and the audience is going, what? Where did this happen? It feels like a survey, or at least that's how I feel about a survey. Each time I read a survey that says to me, entrepreneurs in this country are doing X, Y, Z, I'm like, did you ask me? Nobody asked me, why am I included this thing? And then you look at the sample size, it's like 1,500 people respond, and I'm just like, come on. We got to do a little bit better, right? But that's my frustration from the other side of the equation. And I'm sure you're saying, look, we're doing a whole lot of work to pump information out. How do we get that information consumed? How do we improve that part? Because there's a lot of initiatives, but the information doesn't seem to be filtering through to the relevant people. And the impression on the ground then becomes, there's somebody in there that's holding the information for themselves, and they benefit alone, and they don't share with everybody else.
Okay. Yeah, I think it speaks to diversifying the number of platforms on which the communication is, disinvest, and it also speaks to finding more creative ways of communicating this information. Historically, this would be formal types of communication, and I think we need to get into more informal types of communication, and those are the kinds of things that people would pass on to each other, bring down the language to a language that the youth will understand rather than making it excessively formal.
So next time you see a guy at a tavern telling you about compliance and e-governance services, because that's pretty much what needs to happen. That guy needs to come out of that office, and actually sit and engage with me where I am actually hanging out, and half the time trying to drown my sorrows from what's going on in the world, but that's where they need to engage. Okay, any burning points that you would like to set? I must commend your platform, because I looked at it and it actually just started making listing seem like easier and less intimidating than having to go on a JSC platform to try and figure this thing out, right? I'm not saying I'm an investor yet, but I'm just saying it actually looks less intimidating than having to go to the JSC thing. So if that was part of your quest, good job on doing that. Kutlwano?
No, nothing.
Okay, you need to tell them to tell their school to get you to come in there paying.
Yes.
I'll give you the chance.
Well, guys, we work with schools in the township, so as long as the school opens the door for us, we are there. So,
is there a way parents can facilitate this?
Yes.
Because sometimes we sit there, we see these things as parents outside, but we don't know how to bring it into our schools. Or we wait for the school to bring it in and they never think about it because they're not sick. How do the parents, any of you parents in the room, I'm sure there's parents, how do they bring it to their schools?
The best is actually school governing bodies.
Yes.
That's why you must take it, because then the principals may feel, well, we don't have a budget for it. But if it comes through the school governing body, it makes it easier. Everybody knows that we're trying to prepare our kids for the future, and it's a priority.
How many of you parents are on the school governing body? Fewer numbers. There are far. Somebody must do it. Thulani, anything else you want to add?
Okay, in the next few weeks, keep your eyes on the media. Look out for the launch of the Gauteng Citizen Engagement Platform. As soon as it launches, go on there and register yourselves. And next time you want to consume government services, first check there if that service is not already offered online before you go to an office. It will cover some services that are offered by the municipalities within the province. So maybe you might want to check your municipal statement there before you go to the actual office.
I think Specimen has decided he's going to apply for his liquor license first. You're on the team and you're just waiting for that message that goes, being confirmed. So yeah, I'm just, say again?
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes, you may. Only because you're the boss, I have to let it in. I was about to say no.
Thank you very much. Saki, I just wanted you to touch a little bit when it comes to financial inclusion and looking at the lower income earners, LSM 1, 2 to 3, and with the tech space, what's the underlying kind of ground between financial inclusion and tech development? And thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, one of the things that's really powerful before I come to financial inclusion in finance is the power of compound interest. And what that is really is you invest 1,000 rands today, it grows at 10% per annum. Over a 30-year period, 30 years later, it's 17,000 rands plus. So that's what generally banks are built on, that's what insurance companies are built on, and pension funds, you put X amount of money over time. That's one important principle. The other one is what we now call crowdfunding, but in townships we call it Stokvel, Galelo, and all of those things. Everybody has always understood the point of power in numbers. You start a business, you need, again, we call it an angel investor, but you need a place to stay, you need food, you need money for petrol. Somebody finances you that as you put in time to build yourself. So part of what I think is going to help us with financial inclusion is how we get those gaps filled in, how we collaborate, and how we take a long game in building the things that we want to do. So on what you were saying, Marang, one of the things we've done on our website, information is freely available. So the price of shares is real, it's not delayed, it's what the share price is at the time, available for free, company information, announcements, annual reports, you can get it. We launched an app which you can then register, because in South Africa for you to register you need a broker. So some people will have a Standard Bank online banking account, but that's because they have a broken license. So what we've done is that you go to our website, you don't have to scan around for brokers, you go to our website, and all the brokers we have, we call them market participants, are there. So you register on the app, choose a broker, do figure online, and off you go, you have a bank account. And then the costs as well, we don't have standard holding costs that chew up your capital. You pay on your trades, and we make the trades percentage based. So you put 1,000 rands, your trades are 1.5% one way, and then a few others. So in about 30 rands, you then do your trades. It then helps you that you don't have your money being eaten by fees. If you have 1,000 rands, that by the end of the year, all of it is gone because you're paying fees on it. So from as little as that, and those are the things we're doing to then promote financial inclusion. But also the fact that the clearances are immediate also means that you can get your money the same day. You know, you don't have to sell your shares and 3 days later, that's only then that you're going to get your money. So that's how we've gotten our platforms to respond to financial inclusion on people buying securities. But there's a lot of things you can do, whether it's bank accounts, and I mean, as basic a thing as making it easy to do figure without having to run around again, submitting a document and emailing, and just one platform, you upload everything online and off you go.
Happiness everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the panel for participating, especially you for being thrown in the deep end and still, I think you swim a very good backstroke and you managed to stay alive. Thanks a lot.